What is up, YouTube? My name is Alex. Welcome back to the Lifting Nomad. And over the last month, I've been largely unmotivated, staying in Canada with the winter weather. It's just been depressing, seeing the days go by so quickly and so gray and so cold. Back in my favorite city, Buenos Aires, as far as I'm concerned, it's been the best city I've ever been to. And in this video, I want to talk about how I get settled into a new place. This is my first time in this apartment, in this neighborhood. So how I get settled, how I get myself kind of acquainted over the first few days. I've been here about 3 days at this point, so going through the motions of how to actually get myself in line. So just gonna go through kind of my routine, my ritual, how I get sorted, how I get settled and comfortable in a new neighborhood, in a new city, in a new apartment, in a new place. So without further ado, let's get into the video. First thing I will say is this place does have a absolutely tiny ass kitchen, but we will of course make it work because that's what we always do. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just doing my pre-workout meal, getting ready to go to the gym this morning. And when I'm picking a neighborhood, one of the first things I look for is having a good gym in the area, a good grocery store, obviously like things like safety, nightlife, proximity to the airport, all that important. But for me, I'm obviously looking for a balanced approach towards food, fitness, lifestyle, traveling, while still being able to go out and enjoy the city. So I am in the Palermo Soho neighborhood here in Buenos Aires. If you Google it, it's probably gonna be like the #1 most safe, probably the most expensive as well neighborhood in Buenos Aires. So that's where I've chosen to come the last 2 times I've been here. I know it really well. I know the neighborhood, I know where to pick, but if you're new to a city, always just try and Google and look for kind of videos like this of where to stay in those areas. Reason being, there's always going to be some places you should avoid. And then even within Palermo, let's say, there's some streets that are just a little bit, not necessarily dangerous, but just out of the way that are gonna take you longer to do things like get to the gym, find a grocery store, all that stuff. So I picked this location because I know it's very close. It's about a 10-minute walk from the gym that I went to last year when I was here for a couple months. I went to 6 or 7 different gyms and did like a lot of research in the neighborhood of where I'd want to stay when I came back. So I kind of had this place already in my mind of where I was gonna stay once I did come back here. Weirdly off topic, but do they just not do bagels here? The last like 6 months or so back home, I've been doing bagels as a pre-workout. It's just like a nice change from just like always having oats for the last few years. But I cannot for the life of me find bagels in a grocery store in this town. I don't know, comment in the section below. Am I just missing something or are they just not bagel people? So I think when it comes to getting to these new cities, like I said, first thing I always do is try and find a good neighborhood before I get here that has a gym, grocery store accessibly nearby. And then of course what I do is actually capitalize on the proximity once I get settled. So going to get groceries kind of as soon as I'm in my apartment. I usually bring grocery bags from home. Simply because a lot of these countries I've been to don't have like reusable bags or whatever the case is. And I just have a bunch of those like Shoppers Drug Mart bags from Canada that are, weigh like, I don't know, 10 grams, not even. So they don't take up much space in your bag. And then I just throw them in like one of the little zippers on my checked bag, then I have it when I get here. So once I get settled, I try and get groceries as soon as I can. I think if that first week is really crucial to getting your routine established, getting to the gym, getting your diet dialed in, because if you're just ordering like Rappi, it's so much cheaper here than it is back home or pretty much anywhere else. Argentina has some of the cheapest like delivery food I think I've ever seen. So you can get in this habit of delivering like 2-3 times a day. Maybe you're eating out once a day and you're not cooking at all at home. And it's gonna end up adding up to a lot more than it needs to. So here, for instance, lunch meats tend to be pretty cheap. Like for $1 to $2, you can get a pack of like prosciutto or salami or something like that. And then you get some lower fat cheese, some bread, make some sandwiches for like your pre-workout meals, lots of carbs, lots of protein. As long as you're choosing some good meats, you should be able to be as long as you're choosing good meat, you should be able to keep the fat relatively low and get a little bit of a high protein, tasty snack in before you head to the gym. Then the second thing I do is actually sign up for that gym membership. So here in Argentina, if anyone hasn't been here before, if you're not familiar, it is a lot of cash payments for things. So I actually paid cash for my gym membership. Cost about $20 for the month, which is about double what it was last year, which is pretty crazy for the exact same gym I went to. So with that being said, I'm gonna nuke my pre-workout breakfast sandwiches. I'm gonna go grab a Monster because I haven't been able to get supplements yet, but that is on the agenda for this week. Then we're gonna head to the gym and I will see you guys there.
All right,
right, gym is done, we're showered, looking fresh, ready to go for the day. And I'm still trying to figure out how easily I'm gonna be able to record in this gym here. It doesn't look like anyone else is doing it. And usually, like, even when I'm traveling, I do see 1 or 2 people recording their workouts. So I still gotta figure out how I'm gonna hopefully have some content actually in the gym. As far as you guys saw, that was just like me cracking a monster. So once you've picked the neighborhood, you've got the gym locked in, what else do you need to do? Well, for me, obviously there's a couple things you can do beforehand to get ready for actually living there. I'm fortunate that I've been learning Spanish the last year and a half, so it wasn't too big of a deal for me to come down to Argentina. There's obviously, 20 plus countries you can go to with Spanish as the primary language through Central and South America and the Caribbean as well. So if you aren't very fluent or very good with that language, fire cold brew coffee. A little bit of like things like cue cards before you get there to write things down like, hi, hello, thank you, I'm going here, I'm from here, I would like different types of food, like how you would order your coffee, the food is good, can you help me, do you know where something is? Like really common sentences like that just make things a lot easier. To become fluent in a language, they really say you only need to know about 5,000 words, and in most languages they have around 200,000 or more. So you don't need to know everything in order to become fluent, because if you think about it in your everyday life, how often do you say things like arithmetic, or theorem, or binoculars, or snorkel? Like really obscure words that you don't hear that often. That's really what most language is made up of. If you think about it, you're ultimately saying the same words over and over in different sentence structures. Where are you going? Are you going there? Where are you from? It's essentially the same use of words in different ways. That's how we communicate as humans. If you think about it, you really only have to know a little bit of fluency and it can take you a long way. Outside of that, things I like to figure out is how am I going to operate my cell phone? Obviously really, really important in most places to be able to have access to your cell phone for things like banking apps, credit card payments, email, flight tickets, like bookings, like anything like that, it's important to have access to. So for instance, in most countries, you're able to buy nowadays prepaid SIM cards. Now this may be just a Canadian thing because I know a lot of the newer iPhones are actually removing the SIM card tray, which personally, I don't understand why it would ever make sense to not have it, given that a lot of countries are still operating on these physical SIMs. Of course, I know that eSIM is becoming more and more popular, but really what benefit is there of removing the SIM card tray? Especially when us as Canadians have the iPhone 15 Pro, let's say, that is identical to the American version, but we have a SIM card tray. What's the value to necessarily removing that? Anyways, that's neither here nor there. So figuring out a SIM card. Here in Argentina, I'll tell you a little bit of a story. It is a pain to get a working SIM card for a phone as a foreigner. I don't know how it is for a local, but here's the process. You essentially have to buy a physical SIM card, and you'd think logically, a lot of their providers here are things like Claro, which is a really common Latin American provider. You could go into a Claro store, buy a SIM card, buy some data, and get your phone plan set up. No, no, no. You have to buy a SIM card, but the thing is a lot of these Claro locations are actually out of physical SIMs a lot of times. So you have to go to a kiosco or like a corner store, buy a physical SIM. But the problem is that's not activated. So now you have to either go back into that same Claro store that they just sent you away from with your physical SIM that you just bought from a corner store, or now this year, a little bit better, you're able to go online and send in a picture of your passport as well as a selfie to validate that that is you. And then you submit that to the company, and then they go through and actually manually validate that you are the person that you say you are and activate your line. Then you think, boom, I'm done. No, no. Now you have to add some cash to that plan in order to activate it. So essentially you have to go online, register for an account. This used to be a much more tedious process. Last year when I was here, there was no way to do this online as a foreigner. You had to have a local credit card. What you had to do last year was actually go into, again, a kiosco after you've already done all this shit, add cash to these little like ATM looking machines. You'd enter in your phone number that you got from this Claro SIM card, put cash into this ATM machine essentially. It's called like I don't even know, like a telephone ATM, let's say. Put cash into this machine, and then that actually gets added to your credit online. Then you have to go online and purchase a plan with the cash that you just added in person, but there's no like, easy way to do it. And also those machines only took a specific denomination of bill. You couldn't put the biggest ones, you couldn't put the smallest ones, you had to put specifically a 500 peso bill in that machine for it to work. Long story short, last year was an absolute pain to get this done. This year it's a little bit easier. You can just go online and pay with a foreign credit card, add that plan that you want. So I was able to get 25 gigabytes for 30 days for about $10 Canadian, which is, I'm sure if anyone's Canadian watching this, an amazing deal considering we get absolutely rinsed and pay the highest prices of any telecom plans in the world. Okay, so now I got SIM card set up. What else do I do?
couple of things you want to be cognizant of, especially if you're in like less safe countries, is typically I remove any banking apps, credit card apps, anything that's like really, really sensitive to have on my phone. I actually remove the access to them. Reason being, it can be just a really big pain if you do get robbed, if you do lose your phone. If you have a tendency to do things like this back home, it's just gonna be exasperated when you are traveling. Me, thankfully, you know, not to toot my own horn, thankfully, but one of my traits is definitely that I've never lost a phone, never broken a phone, never been robbed from a phone. Not to say it won't eventually happen, but I'd like to think that I'm pretty conscious about how to use my phone in public and not like lose it. I never ever lose phones at home, so it's not something I even think about anymore. But either way, I still do it just in case something does happen. Remove the credit card apps, remove the banking apps. Ultimately, I bring my iPad or some other device that I can access them on. That way, when I'm at home and I need to, I don't know, pay my credit card or book a flight, I have them, but it's not something that's at risk while I'm traveling around in the city. A couple other things I like to do when I get into a new city is just kind of walk around. You know, like I know Buenos Aires pretty well now. I was here for a couple months last year, and then I'm gonna be here a couple months more this year. But it's, you know, refreshing to see the differences, the new restaurants, the new buildings, the new bars. Some things have changed. Grocery stores have maybe been rearranged. My gym was rearranged. Like little things like this just change over time as people get more and more advanced. And it's kind of just cool and refreshing to spend some time and just go explore the city without a destination in mind. Usually what I'll do is maybe pick like one thing I want to see on that walk, but I'm not in a particular rush to get there. You know, I'll take my time, go to different places, stop at a coffee shop, stop along the way for various pictures, grab a water, maybe grab a beer at a place that looks cool. Like I think really traveling, you know, I read this thing the other day where I talked about the romance of traveling is really only realized once you get back home. And I'm trying to be very active these days about spending my time wisely and enjoying those moments while I am traveling. I know last year I was extremely fortunate to spend most of my time traveling and do some incredible things. And I realized, you know, in hindsight, I definitely wasn't enjoying the moment as much as I could have. Of course, I'm, you know, a happy, extroverted person and like enjoyable to be around. I wasn't necessarily focusing on that exact second and experiencing everything that's around me, smelling what I'm smelling, hearing what I'm hearing, seeing what I'm seeing, enjoying the feeling of being around others and new experiences. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that while you are traveling, because when you do eventually get home, there is going to be a time when it's your last trip. And I don't want to think about that per se as I'm still in my 20s, but eventually that day is going to come. So I'm trying to be much more conscious of spending my time intentionally and enjoying the travels. So this has kind of been just like a little bit of a debrief. Welcome back to the Lifting Nomad. I know it's been a little bit of a rocky upload schedule the last little bit as I've just been really demotivated being at home, honestly. So it's refreshing to get back down here to Argentina. I'm excited to spend some time creating content and getting back into the YouTube scene. Got some cool things in store. We're gonna have some fun side trips as we go through it. Some good coffee, some good food, some good workouts as always, and of course, the good vibes. So this is gonna be the video. Hopefully this was refreshing to hear a little bit of what I've been doing in Buenos Aires to get settled in and get ready for a big winter or big summer as it is here. But if this video was useful, feel free to leave a like or comment in the section below. Always helps the algorithm. My name is Alex. Welcome back to Lifting Nomad. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.